What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Shoe. I am your host, Dominic Smith, and today I have a guest that needs no introduction. If you were at the beginning when this series started, he came on, dropped some serious wisdom, answered your questions, and there's a 95% chance that he has evaluated. Read, react, evaluate, or something like that.
Watch, react, evaluate.
Watch, react, evaluate. I'm going to get it one day. Watch, react, evaluate it. One of your favorite Ohio State players, commits, or prospects. And if you are not the 5% that has seen that, then you need to subscribe to CoachHayesFootball.com. And without further ado, it is Coach Kyle Hayes of Coach Hayes Football. What's going on, Coach? Pleasure to have you back on, man.
What's going on, man? Hey, it's great to be back, man. These Buckeyes, as I always say, are buck nuts, man.
Oh, for sure. You know they do it big in Columbus, man. So we're excited to have you on. This is a perfect example of Cane fans getting along with Buckeye fans. It is entirely possible. May not like it, but still, it is possible. So I actually forgot to ask you this question, and I need to stop saying I forgot. I came up with the question the day after we did the interview, but I've been asking people this. And so this I want you to answer this question referring back to your days at Hampton. Or you can do it during your time coaching, regardless. But if there was an Avenger or any superhero, any superhero, doesn't have to be modern day, be old school, whatever, or any character, any TV show, movie character. If you had to pick one to describe you as a player and a coach, who are you rolling with?
I hate to say it, bro. This might be the worst thing in the world because I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know, of course, I know the basic Supermans, and I have not seen one Avenger movie. So, guys, please don't put me in the cancel culture. I just know somebody got a big thing on his hand. Thanos, see, there you go. I'm going to go, man. And it's funny, I was talking about this. I was listening to a comedian, they were talking about this. I'll probably go with Superman. And I'll say, I always remember this, especially coaching. I always remember this coaching. Everybody has the butterfly, right? But as soon as that ball gets kicked, it's go time. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you go in the booth and let's get it. You know what I mean? So I guess that would be it, man. Superman. I guess it's kind of cheesy because everybody knows Superman, but that's it. You know, I got my glasses on during the day and but when it's game time, let's get out here, man, to go save the world, man.
Game time, big hits, everything. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So this is a special episode because we're going to be talking about Florida football. We're going to kind of preview and give fans, especially in Ohio, a better understanding of what Florida football is like. I know a few of you have asked some questions on the board. Forgive my poor setup. You can kind of see my chair rocking back and forth, but I don't know anything about technology, so I can't do nothing about that. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some key players, some players that coaches broke down. My grammar is off tonight. I apologize. But players that he's evaluated, he's given his honest feedback, and we're going to let Coach, promote his brand. I got to show the Polo Timmy though. Got to show it.
It is.
Definitely.
Polo Timmy. Y'all go pick it up, man. Go pick it up, man.
Go pick it up. Listen, man. Everybody has a Polo Timmy on their team. Just make sure you're not one of them. That's how I look at it. So,
yes, sir.
That's how you got to do. But Coach, I want you to start us off. Explain to everybody who is not from here, who does not have an understanding of what Florida football is like. Explain the beauty of it. What is football like in the great state of Florida? What makes it unique? What is it? What is it?
Man, you know what it is? And I've always said this, especially South Florida guys, Miami guys like myself. I can't put my finger on it, but I know exactly what it is. We have a mentality that you can't tell us we can't. You can't stop us. We want to be the best. We are competitive at birth. You can see 2-3-year-olds challenging each other. You know, you can go to ride through the city and go to maybe drive by one of the basketball parks or something. And the big 300-pound dude is out there thinking he's Steph Curry, trying to break people down. I'm just saying that's the kind of mentality that we have. And when it comes to football, it's just life. I mean, they've done documentaries on this about Pee Wee ball. They call it Pop Warner, was mostly known. But in Miami, back in my days, it was called Optimus. Where that came from, I have no idea, but we always know it as Optimus. So if I refer to it, I'm also referring to the Pee Wee and Pop Warner leagues. But man, Optimus games used to be a big deal, and they went by pounders. So it'd be like the 80 pounders, the 90 pounders, 100, 110s, 120s, 125s, 140. But when you got to the 145s, baby, hey, that's when them knockouts was coming, man. And I look at a 145-pound dude today, and I'm like, that's Floyd Mayweather, right? But when you were a little kid growing up, man, you like, Mom, can I stay to watch the 145s play? And somebody was going, it was some Sweet Chin music being played out there those nights, man. And those were great times, but that it comes from the beginning. And I guess it's very similar to maybe up north in the East Coast and maybe in the Chicago to basketball. You know what I mean? But so far as the mentality, man, everybody thinks they're the best, and they try the best. And we just a different breed when it comes to speed, just toughness. You know, yeah, we might lack a little bit with the offensive line guys, a little bit, but we're getting a lot better. But when it comes to those skill positions, man, it's amazing, bro. It's amazing.
There's a couple of, well, I don't want to say myths, but I was rewatching. It was 2018, man, and it was state championship. I'm trying to remember the teams. I have it written down. It was Jacksonville Mandarin against Miami Christopher Columbus.
Okay.
So it was a fantastic game. Carson Beck, I think he ended up at Georgia. And then they had a kid. They had some. We're going to get to the rankings soon, but if you watch that game and you looked at the rankings of some of these kids from Mandarin, you would shake your head because you're like, there's no way in the world they could be ranked that low because they just took the game over. But I want to get your opinion on this because I read a comment in the comment section. Somebody was saying that the difference between North Florida football and South Florida football is the physicality. That there's a more physical brand up north compared to the physicality down south. There's more of a speed element and athleticism down south compared to up north. Now, I've seen some of these teams as of late. Miami Central a few years ago when they went on the road to play Bishop Gorman. I don't think that Bishop Gorman would tell you that. Or people like that, you know, James Cook and those guys. I've seen St. John Bosco come down to St. Thomas Aquinas. And that was like, I think the final score of that game was like 9-6 or whatever the case might be. I don't say I don't count IMG, but, you know, I'm talking like, you know, pure Florida school. So I wanted to hear your opinion on that.
It's interesting you say that. And I would have to say this. Years ago, I would probably agree with that. And I'm going to just say it this way. When it comes to weight training and all of those things back then, it may not have been high on the priority list for the South Florida teams. Primarily, man, a lot of people don't realize this. There's not a lot invested into football from the school systems when it comes to South Florida. Second, and why that is, because once you hit West Palm Beach, everything is metropolitan. It's not small towns where, you know, everybody closes their stores early because, you know, the Tigers are playing that night or anything like that, right? So there's so many more things going on in there. For example, in Dade County, I believe, I may be wrong, but they're almost right at about 50 high schools. They have over 500 schools in total. 500 elementary schools, something like that. It's astronomical. So their emphasis and their priorities are not on extracurricular activities so far as funneling money into those things. So maybe when you look at these weight rooms or you go there at those times back then, now it's getting a little bit better. And why it's getting better? Because a lot of these older schools they're starting to build them new schools. And in the new school, like Carroll City just got a brand new school within the past, maybe 10 years. Central is a new school, like a new building, I mean. And so through that construction, the weight rooms are built up. When I was at Norland, our weight room was maybe about 2 bedrooms put together. You know what I mean? It had one little squat rack in it. It was not a big deal, but you have to remember that school was also built back in the 50s. You know, and so that's what it is. When you look at the schools up north, they probably put a lot of emphasis in there because they have a smaller town feel, excluding a Jacksonville. But other than that, think about it, there's no other real major metropolitan city when you go north of Central Florida. Once you go north of Orlando, everything else is Jacksonville, which is huge, but then maybe Tallahassee, Monticello. You know, it's a lot of country feel. You know, not to say it like that, but
no, it's country.
Well, I don't want to say it because some people, hey, in the words of Outkast, we're not country, we Southern. So I didn't want it to be like it was derogatory in the sense of, but I was saying like a small town feel, Friday night life feel. But in today, as those new schools are being built, they have increased the weight room. Like, for example, I was there when they built Norland and they were doing the weight room, and the coaches were a part of that. And what equipment do you want? And how big should that room be? And so those things are now starting to swing the other way. So hopefully that answers the question. So I agree in the early part, and I somewhat agree as we get there today, but I think it'll level off here soon.
I think, well, at least the first taste of South Florida football that I remember visually seeing was when South Lake, Miami's Northwestern, went to South Lake. And I mean, if they didn't have a weight room then, I don't know what they were lifting. That offensive line and defensive line, they were massive. South Lake Carroll, where Quinn Ewers, former South Lake Carroll quarterback Quinn Ewers, he's supposed to join campus sometime this week. But no, that's a great explanation. I guess maybe I just never, thought about it or seen it. I thought it was an interesting comment. I know the teams in the North are physical, for sure, but I just never put 2 and 2 together.
But I'm going to say this and kind of just follow up with what I said too. And really to answer the physicality, it's also a different style of ball. Up north, you got a lot of teams still running a single wing or wing T, the 3 yards and cloud of dust type mentality. So it appears to be more physical. When you look at the Southern teams or the South Florida teams, rather, you see us kind of throwing around the yard perimeter runs, but it doesn't look like, 22 guys just mashed together and see somebody pop out of it. So it's still some physicality in there, but it's just not what do they call it? A scrum. You don't see just a scrum and then, that's what it is. So maybe it's just optically it seems to be stronger, but I don't think so.
Were you at Norland? Did you coach Duke Johnson?
We did, man. Actually had Duke his freshman year, and then we left and went on over to Jackson. But yeah, man, I actually had Duke. People don't remember this, but I was defensive coordinator at the time. So Duke comes to Norland, and Duke was my MVP defensive player at safety. People don't realize that, man. He could play. I told Coach, hey, I need a safety, man. Yeah, y'all can score 50 points, but if we lose by 51-50, what difference does it make? And Coach was like, go for it. And that's what it was. But he was also young, and we had a running back at the time. So we didn't want to just ease him. We want to kind of ease him into that role as well. He played running back as well, but he wasn't, getting all of the carries at that time. But he could play, man. He's a special cat.
I knew he'd run you over, but I didn't realize that he was a safety. That's an interesting tidbit I didn't realize.
Yeah, he ain't gonna tackle you. He gonna lay that thunder on you too. Now, trust me.
All right, so let's switch gears to some Florida football. And interestingly enough, we talked about it before the show. You're going to be up in Seminole on October 1st. I'll be there as well, covering I forgot the teams. Chaminade Madonna. Versus Seminole High School. So just a quick breakdown on that for Buckeye fans. If that name sounds familiar, it should be, because that is where Buckeye commit Ryan Turner, as well as Kenyatta Jackson. And he's one of the guys I got to send over to your show for you to evaluate some of these kids, because you being a former defensive lineman and some of the technique things, and he's a technician, which is one of the reasons why Ohio State is really wants to get him. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, listen, go for it.
Okay. He's a technician. Games like that, and so you got Seminole. They have a set of twins who freaks athletically. They got guys returning. Central Florida, they're old school. They lost a lot of guys, but they are hungry. They play very blue-collar football with a chip on their shoulder. Then you got Chaminade, who I know familiar with the South Florida area. Obviously very familiar. And so you know a bit about them and their brand of football, because they're not afraid to play anybody. They play Buford, Georgia, Buford High School up in Georgia. They play Christopher Columbus, and then Seminole. And so when you have a matchup, and so my question to you have this matchup, Chaminade's 3A, Seminole 8A state championships. What is the mentality, or what are you looking for in a game like that?
I mean, you're going to see it. Can I just be honest with you? When you look at the teams like a Chaminade, to talk about the classification real quick, I mean, those numbers represent the student population. Doesn't necessarily represent the teams. It does in some fields, in some areas, right? I get it, right? So when you look at but when you're talking about a Chaminade, or you're talking about, the St. Thomas, or even a Central and so forth, you have a top-notch program when it comes to that. So those are 3A team definitely has a shot against an 8A team. That 8A team means they have, I think, 3,500 or plus students. A 3A team, I don't know the exact breakdown, but maybe 1,400 to 1,900 students. But it's only 65 people on the team, and it's only 11 on the field at a time. So at the end of the day, they're going to get the players. And then by being a private school, they can, of course, bring guys in with no ifs, ands, or maybes. But what you're going to see is you're going to see some physical football, man. You're going to see some coaching matchups. You're going to see some coaching, some chess games going on. But you're going to see some physicality. You're going to see athlete versus athlete. And you're going to see some jaw-dropping plays, because some things you just can't coach. And those guys out there on the field are definitely going to make it happen, especially when you have a bunch of athletes, right? And that's just, I don't think it's going to be just a blowout or a one-sided game. I think it's going to be a great boxing match and some good counterpunching.
But a team, so you just mentioned, the classification does not matter. It does not equate to the talent on the field. Chaminade has insane talent. I just wrote a story on them, check it out on Buckeye Scoop about, their defensive line. I think they got Kenyatta Jackson's a 4-star player. They got the interior defensive lineman that's committed to UCF, and I think they got a kid that's committed also in the interior to UConn. Mm-hmm. You feel like, is there a chip on your shoulder if you are a 3A school, regardless talent? Chaminade, they won 3 state championships prior to, they had that Franklin heartbreaking loss against Trinity Christian, Jacksonville Trinity Christian last year. I feel for them, because I would cry for them, and I didn't, root for anybody. But is there a chip on your shoulder when you go into games like that, just to prove, yeah, cool, we're 3A, but you know what, we can ball too, and we took down the 8A giant?
I don't think so, man. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know if those guys even think about their classification. I think they think about the opponent. I don't think they look at themselves as a 3A school, because if you do that, I think kind of subconsciously you feel you're lesser than. You're the David to the Goliath. And they're really not. They're just in a different classification. So I don't think they look that way, because they are. Now, if you take one of those 3A schools that are on their schedule and they play Seminole, they may think that way. And I don't know the 3A schedule they have. If you know or another team that they may be playing that may not be a top dog like that, they may think that way. But a Chaminade, I mean, they are who they are. They just happen to be a 3A school, because nothing you can do about the enrollment so far as that. But I don't think those players nor the coaching staff thinks that way, because if they did, they wouldn't set the schedules up that way. I want to play the best of the best talent. If Seminole was a 3A giant, we'll go get them too. That's how I look at it.
You broke down Ryan Turner, and then after this, we're going to go to the stars commit. Then we'll a couple questions that were asked to me that I'm going to ask to you, and then we'll break down kind of some of the teams locally here in our area, specifically ask some scenarios and questions. But what was it about Ryan Turner that impressed you when you broke down his film?
His ability to play the position. So many guys at cornerback are not fundamentally sound. They are just athletic, and they're getting away with their athleticism. This guy's doing things that corners should be doing. I don't know who his coach, his position coach is, or whoever's coaching him, but they're doing a tremendous job with him, because those are things you don't know unless you've been taught. You look how he's playing. I believe he does great with the sink technique. He understands how to play zone, understands how to play man, knows how to take the right angles. That's another big thing when you're playing DB, how he takes the correct angles. And he's a sleeper in my eyes, right? I don't think a lot of people really knew about him, or maybe still know about him. I really didn't. I have to be honest with you. I didn't catch hold of him until I think he made his commitment to Ohio State. The Ohio State. The Ohio State University. But he can play, he can play. And I'll go down the alley with him any night. You know what I mean? And I know we walking out the other side, because he can go, man. And he's technically and fundamentally sound when it comes to playing the position. And that's what I really enjoyed about his film.
So that leads us to the discussion, and we talked about it for a minute before the show, the ranking system. So I try to watch as much WRE. I've even tuned in for 1 or 2 Hurricane live feeds, and it gets it's fun. It's just watching as an Ohio State fan. I want to comment "Go Bucks," but I know I die within 20 seconds and everything like that.
Oh man, go for it, man. We have a lot of fun. Hey, we got a lot of guys in there, man. Florida State, but I have to be honest with you, a lot of Ohio State people do come in. A lot of Alabama fans do come in. Like I said, I am a Miami Hurricane fan, but I'm here to celebrate all young men across the country. But I'm a Canes fan. I think everybody's a fan of one thing. Just because you do one thing, I mean, you can't be a fan. But man, yeah, you're more than welcome. I actually want to have you on the show one day, man. I'm gonna have you come on, man. Let's do it. Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, we had to go back and talk a little bit, because even though we talk Canes football, we do talk other things as well, man. But yeah, we just have fun on there, man, the WREs and all of that stuff, man. So I know you want to get into these stars, so let's get it.
Well, first of all, let me know when I'm going to have my computer. We don't have any audio issues. I will definitely make an appearance, because it is fun and everything. And, I definitely encourage people, because you guys do talk kind of the, strategy and the ins and outs of football as well and everything. So, yeah, I will definitely be honored to be on the show. But I wanted to talk about the star rankings, because when – we just talked about it. Your breakdown of him when you watch the film, not, anything else, but the actual film against good competition. One of the teams that he played, he had a couple of just acrobatic pass breakups was Berkeley Prep, Tampa Berkeley Prep. I am, the school that I went to and played when I did play for a little bit was in 3A. I can tell you Tampa Berkeley Prep is known for pushing out talent. You got Nelson Aguilar, who's currently in an NFL, and so many guys like him. Ohio State fans, guess what? You should know Berkeley Prep well, because future first-round tackle, who's our starting tackle right now, Nicholas Petit-Frere, came from Berkeley Prep. He does it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was a playoff game that he made those plays. So he does it consistently against good talent. And so I started with Chaminade, because they play, it's a talented team that plays good talent. They're not playing, like, for a better term, poor little Timmies. They're actually, playing, legit talent. So why doesn't that show up in the rankings? What is wrong with the ranking system, and how do you fix
it? All right, here we go, man. Let's dive in this thing here. We diving here first in the shallow waters. Here we go. Here's the problem I truly see with the ranking system. One, And somebody brought this up to me, and it makes sense, but you have to take these things into consideration. Okay, you can't evaluate every player. Fair. I get that. But also, every player can't come to every camp. So in order to fix it, and again, this is their model, this is their business, that's their marketing scheme, and that's fine. How you fix it is you have to be consistent. And you have to be consistent with the things you evaluate. So, for example, if I was to evaluate you about something and evaluate another, let's say I evaluate somebody from in your field, right? Say a journalist, and I evaluate another gentleman. But I only evaluate you on this, but I evaluate him on this, and that. To me, you can't make a comparison because you don't have the same data and stuff I can look at, if that makes sense.
Right.
So how you make it consistent is you look at their game film. Everybody has the game film. Everybody can go to these camps. They can't afford to go to these camps. So because I can't afford to go to these camps, that means I'm not a top guy. I'm not a top player. You know, I don't know Ryan Turner's situation so far as his camp attendance, but I guarantee that's probably why he's not ranked as high as he should be, because he hasn't gone and put on the shirt and shorts and they can market it. That's just how I feel. So how you do it is you take everybody's game film. Why is that the best way? Because that's what coaches look at. Coaches look. There is no coach. Coach, you can go next time you go somewhere and just walk by a college coach. Hey, coach, you seen such and such? Have you evaluated his 707 film? That coach gonna look at you like, man, you're a clown for even asking me that. Nobody looks at. First of all, who do you know when you go to 707 is filming it from a bird's eye view like you see game film? Nobody. Second of all, college coaches can't attend 707s. The only loophole is if they have a son attending it. I know Jimbo Fisher got on the trail a little bit because he had a son that was playing in 707, but that's a loophole. So who's evaluated in that film? Nobody. If you ever look at most 707 film, where do you see them? They're ground level, sideline level, right? Daddy cam, maybe some guys may take shots or whatever, and that's fine. But the evaluation process has to be equal and consistent. That's first.
Yeah. And it's just so crazy because there's so many guys that are, and I have to say it's opinion-based to a fault. Because there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration, in my opinion, because it competition level, and then if you can play, you can play. I don't care if you play in the lowest classifications against, people who aren't that good, or you play in the St. Xavier's in Ohio, the Miami team, St. Thomas Aquinas, Miami Northwestern, Miami Central, Dr. Phillips, whatever, here in Florida, or St. John Bosco, Modern Day in the Trinity League, Chandler in Arizona. Talent is talent. It's just, I don't know. I feel like, and I know if you talk to Ohio State fans, they look at like the pattern, because it always seems that the Ohio State commits get dipped and dropped every time there's a new set of rankings. But I don't know, man. It's just, I just watch, some of these games, and I go and I'm like, oh man, like this dude can play so much better and so much higher than he's ranked. And we talked about it before. One thing that we weren't a fan of was that you're looking at guys, NFL, you're projecting NFL, because, if I looked at J.J. Watt when he, got to Wisconsin, I wouldn't tell you he was going to the NFL. People like that. So it's just, I don't know. Sometimes it confuses me, just to how, and sometimes I feel like it's a discredit to the kids as well, especially work hard and, try to get, noticed and everything like that. And maybe they don't do as well because you've coached in this game for a long time. You played it. You know that somebody can run a 4.45 at camp and then put on pass, and that 4.4 turns to a 4.7. Somebody who runs a 4.7 puts the pads on because they know what they're doing and they play fast, that 4.7 turns to a 4.5. And so it's just kind of crazy to follow, man.
But that's back to what I'm saying. Well, let's watch the game film. Let's not watch the shorts All-American. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. use that as a teaser to get you to the film. That's what I tell people. You know, those 7-on-7 programs and things like that are great. Let's call it what it is, man. It's money marketing at its best. It's easy, it's fast, it's quick. You can go out on a Saturday and have 12 to 15 games like that. Pop, 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 pop. Right? It's fast paced. It's for the fans. So for all the fans out there, those star rankings are for the fans. Yeah. Right? But believe it or not, they're also for the coaches. I'm gonna get into that too in a second if you let me. But
go ahead. Take it.
Some of these coaches fall in love with these stars too, you know. And then in some of these coaching contracts, they get bonuses for recruiting 5 stars. So if you recruit X amount of 5 stars, you can get a $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 bonus because you got 5 stars in here. How do you get the best recruiting class? Based on the stars. Is it truly based on the talent? I don't know. And then my real question is, who is the actual evaluator of these players to give them the stars? What are their credentials? I'm not here to question anybody so far as what they do or they don't do. But it's almost, I looked at it back in the day when you had the AP polls for college ranking. You got the sport writers who never even saw the game because they're a West Coast guy or East Coast guy. Cal doesn't play until 10 o'clock that night and they're asleep. Yeah. So they just look at the box score and say, oh, Cal's the better team. And we've all seen games that were a lot closer than the score shows. You know what I mean? So there are some flaws in this deal, a lot of them. And like you said, NFL rankings, again, this is their business. That is what they choose to do. It's on them. But how are we projecting 16-year-old young guys to what they're going to be as a rookie in the NFL, and they haven't even put a college pad on? Yeah. Like to me, I just can't. I can't see. That's like saying that little kid, oh, well, look at that dude in part 1. He's going to be the next Derrick Henry. He ain't even made it to middle school yet. Like, I understand that's something mommies say, but come on, guys. If we're going to evaluate players, and like you just said too, Dominic, like, I think it's a great marketing scheme by these companies. But who's left in the wake when it all goes south? These players and their families, right? Because everybody's chasing this star ranking. At the end of the day, what does it truly mean? You know, what does it truly mean?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I hope what you said for Ohio State fans will lead to greater appreciation for Mark Pantoni, the director of player development, Mick Marotti, Ryan Day, and the coaching staff. But if you're going to be successful, one of the traits that you have to have among the entire staff is you have to be a good evaluator, like in everything. Like, I think maybe, and I know I've talked with, our guy, Kirk Barton, who played in NFL, coach. And I asked him, like, specifically, when you're evaluating these linemen, they're in, a shirt and shorts. How can you tell if this lineman, is going to be the next Orlando Pace, the next Brian McKinney, the next, and stuff like that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the most important traits you have to be is an evaluator.
That's what recruiting is. You have to be able to project talent. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give you a quick example of what's happening at Miami. There's a young man named Flip Carswell. I'm not sure if you know who he is. It made a couple of headlines. 6'7", 275-pound offensive lineman, never played, basketball player, has never put on a helmet. I'm sorry, let me go back. In Georgia, they do 10 spring practices. I think he did 10 practices. Got an offer from the University of Miami and committed. I have an issue. This has nothing to do with the young man, but I have an issue with the evaluation process. We offer a young man like that. Okay, I understand it's part of the game. But then in turn, we take his commitment and he's never put on it. He probably still don't know how to put his pads on. And I'm not saying that jokingly. I'm being for real. I can give 90% of the fans out here that never played the game a set of pads and they don't know how to put them on. That's just what it is if you've never done it, right? I've never ridden a horse. I probably don't even know how to put my foot on. I don't know how to get on the horse. It's a technique and a strategy to it, right? You don't just, hey, horse, bend down. You got to get up there. And so it's the same thing, right? And so I brought that up to say the same thing, not saying this guy won't turn out to be, but instead of taking this commitment, I would say, listen, we offered you because I know what you potentially could do. Let me evaluate you through your senior year. He's going to be a senior. So the most football he's going to get, well, minimum, is 10 games barring injury. We're about to take a kid in a Power 5 program with 10 games under his belt, come to the University of Miami, and we want him to protect a Jake Garcia in the next 2 years? Or Ja'Cory Brown, he'll probably be protected in the next, 3 or 4 years? I'm not saying it won't work out. There are a lot of guys who play basketball, whatever, but because he's 6'7", 295, he gets that opportunity. But then to the flip side, like you said, there's a kid in Wisconsin right now, I forget his name. He's a 4-star. I'm sorry, yeah, he's a 4-star, no, a 3-star. And Wisconsin is known to put guys in the NFL.
Is it Joe Brunner?
No, I did his film. He's down further. Yeah, I did Joe Brunner. Joe Brunner, he tough. But what I'm saying that you look at a team like Wisconsin, who's known to have those type of players that go to the league, and they recruited him, and this kid is a 3-star. This kid has never put on pads, and he's automatically a 3-star. So what does that tell me? I'm out here busting heads, knocking poor little Timmy to sleep, and you're going to rank a guy who's never put pads on the same ranking you're going to rank me because he's 6'7", 295? You can't say it's the talent. You don't have any film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where the inconsistency comes from. So I just want to kind of use that example.
Yeah, no problem. One of the questions I was asked is why, and this was on the Buckeye Scoop board. And so, as always, if you have any questions for me to ask our guest or that you want me to answer, feel free to just ask. But why are there less quarterbacks from the state of Florida produced compared to all the other positions? Especially the skill players?
I can tell you this, believe this or not, it's going to come down to economics. A lot of people don't understand this. Quarterback is, you can equate it to being a pitcher, right? Or being a hitting coach, right? The guy that plays outfield or whatever, they probably come and go out. They're probably all over the place. But that elite pitcher that knows where to place the ball, those type of thing, he has to have that coach. And I guarantee those parents invest a lot of money into that. It's a lot of outside training that goes in. So when you look at a lot of these quarterbacks, they are extremely raw out of Florida, South Florida, unless they've had opportunity to go into those kind of camp deals, right? And that's really the biggest issue. Also, a lot of guys here just didn't play quarterback. Most of them were athletes that could throw. So you didn't grow up with a true bred quarterback. It was like, hey, boy, that dude fast, he could throw the ball. Let's give it to him. He could be the quarterback. Because that's typically what happened. A friend of mine just called me today. He was on JV. They lost their starting quarterback on JV to the varsity. He could be backup. Guess what he did? Guess who do you think he put at quarterback?
The athlete.
The best wide receiver he had.
Yeah.
And now that's the quarterback for JV. So that's why that happens. When you look across the board, California and other places, I can't say why it is like that geographically, but financially, they can invest those money. Look at the Justin Fields. Look at the Trevor Lawrences. If you look at the history of those guys, barring maybe a Lamar Jackson, you look at them, a lot of people questioned him, right? They didn't come out and say he was going to be the next coming of, but he ended up being that way. Everybody questioned it because he may not have had the perfect mechanics and the footwork and, Mel Kiper talking this and that about the young man because he didn't have that training, that teaching. But then you go look at a Trevor Lawrence, that's a prototypical dude, right? Height, size, strength, touch, all that kind of stuff. So that's probably the best way to answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And hopefully my phone's off now, but I'll definitely make sure I shout you out when we get to the board. So let's wrap this up. There's going to be a lot of insane games this year, just kind of looking at it. Kickoff week, you got IMG facing off against American Heritage, Marvin Jones Jr. and Brandon Ennis and Earl. Oh God, I don't want to mess his name up. You might have done. His dad is a legacy Hurricane?
Earl Little.
Earl
Earl
Little.
Little Jr. Earl Little Jr. Yeah.
Facing off against the talent IMG. Then you got Chaminade, American Heritage. So let's bring it home to Central Florida because there's a lot of prospects in the class of 2023. Like I said, I'm going to send some of these guys your way for you to break down, and then we're going to have you plug in what's going on. I know the website and everything is being revamped in just a second, but for Ohio State fans, these are some names for you to know. Peyton Kirkland, class of 2023, the big 6'8" offensive tackle.
Hold up. Let me write this down. Peyton Kirkland. Okay.
Peyton Kirkland. I'll text it to you too. So,
okay.
Big offensive tackle from Dr. Phillips. I'm really excited to see the season that he's going to have. You have John Walker, defensive tackle from Osceola High School. 4-star defensive tackle who I'm really high on because he is just a grown man in the middle. Derek LeBlanc, 5-star defensive end. Said Ohio State's right now they're in the lead for his recruitment. He also plays for Osceola High School, and they have some other kids on that team. Bo Masco and Chad Masco, the quarterback, who did end up transferring from IMG back to Osceola. I'm losing my mind here. I'm missing some kids. So we'll stick with that right now. But we were talking, it is the talent pool in Florida is insane. I didn't even go to North Florida. Bartram Trail and Sharif Denson and guys like that who they're in class 8A and, assuming they, make it pretty far, they'll maybe have a rematch with Seminole High School from last year. But there's the classification that I just named. What makes that classification, not that class unique, 8A, specifically the district, I said John Walker and Derek LeBlanc, Osceola, Dr. Phillips, all of these teams. And another guy for you to write, Kenyatta Jackson Jr. From Chaminade. Okay. They all play each other. And I love good line of scrimmage battles, like the best on the best. You're going to be calling some of these games for Varsity Sports Network. Is that
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as a former defensive lineman yourself, I know you love the big hits and everything like that. You love physicality and you preach technique. What are some of the things, especially when you have so much talent? And the sad thing is only 2 teams come out of this district. It's Windermere High School, it's Osceola, it's Dr. Phillips, it's Celebration, it's West Orange. But what are you, when it's good on good, what are you looking for? What makes you excited?
Man, I want to see some counter punching. I want to see you making a play. You punch me in the mouth, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. I want to see some great coaching from a strategic standpoint. That's the coach in me, right? I know the fans just want to see the ball being thrown, this dude scoring. Yay, my team. We'll do a great run. But I want to see some 3 and outs, and I want to see how you perform when you get 3 and out. I want to see what happens when that DB gets bombed. How does he perform on the next play? Because once you get bombed, does his head go down? Does he stand up to the challenge? Those are the things I'm looking for because that lets you know if he a real gangster or not, right? Or if he just playing off the hype, right? So because you get a lot of these cats get this hype because they're playing some poor little Timmys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what happened when Big Johnny come on the scene? Now what you gonna do? Are you becoming the poor little Timmy, or you gonna stand up and let's fight this guy? And that's what I want to see, because you're gonna see that. You're gonna see, 2 lions gonna always fight, but somebody got to go. It's somebody gonna take, either you're gonna protect your pride or you're gonna lose it to him, and you got to go find you something else to do. And that's kind of how I look at this, man. So that's what I want to see. I want to see the battle. I want to see how the guys face adversity, because you're going to get beat on a play. You're going to drop a big ball on a play. That's what happens when you're playing top guys. But how do you recover from it? That lets me know if you're a real ball player or not.
I think also what excites me, especially, and it's just so happened all these kids are Ohio State prospects. I just mentioned a couple guys from American Heritage, but that team is just loaded. But because everybody is fighting to get out of that district. Every game counts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't know how the tiebreakers work. I haven't gone into that. I have to study that, just again, and very well might come to that. But every game counts. Like every snap counts. Because if you lose that game, I remember Orange City University. I want to say they went 9-2. Is when what's the running back? Lorenzo Lingard. What's up?
Lingard, yeah.
And they were like 9-1 or 9-2 and missed the playoffs.
Missed the playoffs. Yeah. You know what? And that's back, you talk about restructuring these districts. That's huge coming up. I know the FHSAA, that's Florida High School Association or whatever it is, Football Association. But yeah, man, that's tough. Like you see a team like that 9-2 miss the playoffs, but a team 2-8 make it in. It's like it's bananas, man. But that's what's part of being in the district. Those 2 games you lost were in your district. Unfortunately, you knocked everybody else out, but a game or 2 you lose in your district had you on the couch. So it's kind of luck of the draw, and it is what it is. But speaking of that district, I really think that West Orange is going to be pretty good. They got a lot of talent. The coach over there, Mike Granato, I believe is his name, came over from Edgewater, and got that program kind of rolling. They were good with Bob Head, kind of went down a little bit. I forgot the coach's name, and it went down for a couple of years, and then it came back up with Coach Mike Granato. They kind of back on track again. But I don't know if they still have enough firepower and continuity yet to take on a team like a Osceola and a Dr. Phillips, who's been doing it that way for, I guess, decades at this point. Between Coach Rodney Wells, who I've had opportunity to coach against, man, great coach, does a great job. We had some great battles. He ended up winning them, man, but he had the continuity, and he's got the great teams. And then the coaches down there at Osceola, I mean, they're always going to be in the running. They're always going to be in the talk. So I think Dr. Phillips, Osceola will be the ones to actually pull it out. But West Orange might upset somebody. They might upset somebody.
They did last year. I don't know what game it was, and I was sitting I was here at home because working with the Sentinel, and I'm like, "What you mean West Orange won? They weren't favored to win that game."
Apopka, I think. Apopka.
Yeah.
Apopka, yeah.
Yeah. Who Apopka is going to be really good this year as well. They got a bunch of guys. There's just so much talent. That's kind of the fun of talking about football in the state of Florida. And it's interesting you brought up Osceola. Their head coach, Doug Nichols, he stepped down, but Eric Pinellas, who's been there for ever, it's just like, I saw him this summer. It's like they didn't miss a beat, essentially like that. And there are always those programs. And Osceola, like, it's so crazy. I saw them play Miami Palmetto last year. And I was looking at, it was the battle. And I like those low scoring games because, the guys I mentioned, John Walker and LeBlanc, they were a force to be reckoned with on the defensive line. And then Palmetto had Big Leonard Taylor, who was a force to be reckoned with, on the defensive line. And so there's just so much. And I'm always curious, can one of the Central Florida teams be the one to knock off one of these Southern teams? At first, I thought it was going to be Jones. Miami Northwestern was just a little bit too much for him. Dr. Phillips pulled it off, a couple years ago. And then there's always the northern teams, who sneak in. Duell Jacksonville, Trinity Christian, former Ohio State target Trayvion Webb, who's now committed to Oklahoma. They moved down the classification, so you won't get that rematch. We talked about Chaminade because you just got to talk about the talented teams. There's just so much to look forward to in 2 weeks and stuff like that. So let me ask you this. What are you most excited about now? You're gone from the coaching booth to now you're calling the games. What's that going to be like for you?
Well, I had a chance, man, to call one game during the spring, which happened to be Bishop Moore versus Boone.
Yeah.
It was pretty good, man. It was my first time doing it, had fun, but I do it just like I normally do. Me and Coach Billy Daniels, we call him Coach because he's the coach as well. And, man, we just up there talking football, like two guys, hanging out in the man cave or in the lounge, a little more technical, but but it's good to, just bounce each other off and we talking and it was just smooth. So I'm excited to see it. And sometimes I got to remember I'm mic'd up. So I got to be careful because I'll be ready to be like, let's go. I'll be sounding like a fan up there and you got to kind of keep yourself neutral. But I'm a fan of great plays, and I have to always remember that it may be sometimes a team is just dominating on the drive and I'm just like, let's go, boom, let's go, boom. But it just happened to be that's what's happening at that time. But, I guess I'll get better at it over time. But it's great. It's fun. And, I think that's something I'm going to really just enjoy. Still around the game. I kind of call this my retirement plan, so find something to do after you hang the whistle up, man. What you going to do next?
Well, Coach, tell us what you got going on with Coach Hayes football. Kind of give us a little breakdown of everything that you got. We see the new, if you watch Coach Hayes before, you got the new backdrop, and now you got the Coach Hayes football official polo. Well, no, you had the polo shirt. I guess that's just the regular dry fit shirt.
Yeah, it's just a shirt, man. It's just, this is one actually you get off of the website and everything. But you know what? It was funny. I'll just tell you a real story. The only reason I used to use a green screen because I was renting. I actually ended up buying the house saying, you know what, I'm not coaching. I may not be moving. So I ended up buying the house. I say, let's put some holes in the wall now. So I actually made a real, these are all things I've always had, but I didn't want to put a bunch of holes in people's wall, man. So now that I bought the place, I didn't want to put the old toothpaste and tissue trick and paint over it right quick so I can get my money back. But anyhow, that's what it is, man. So we're just trying to grow Coach Hayes football, the website.com, as well as the YouTube channel. We're revamping the website right now. And what I'm going to do on there, because I get so many people, Coach, can you look at my film? Parents, Coach, can you look at my son film? Moms, Coach, can you look at my son film? Blah, blah, blah. So we're going to have a thing on there for players, coaches, and fans where the players can come on. I can evaluate their film, privately with them. These are all services we're going to provide. For the coaches, I want to start putting on coaching clinics, not just myself, but other coaches, other high school coaches. Let them have a chance to get some limelight, some college guys I know and whatever going to come in. And on the fan side, because YouTube knocks our head off so much for copyright, and that's not our intent. And we put a lot into those videos, man. And just to say that, not to go long, but like when I broke down the spring game for the Hurricanes, that video got demonetized and you put in so many hours. It ain't like you're making a bunch of money, but if it's $5, look, can I have my $5? So we're going to start doing that on the website and have fun with it where we can go in there and we don't have to worry about those type of things, man. And, so the channel is growing. Probably by the time this airs, we'll be right at about 14,000 subscribers, man, in about a year and a half. So our goal is to get to 20,000 by December. So we got about 6,000 to go in about 4 months. So we'll see if we can do it.
Man, you started out with I think when you first came on, it was like 5,000 or 6,000 or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
And next thing I know, you had to run a 5K.
Man, I had to run a 10K. So I had to, yeah. So we ran a 10K. We just recently, maybe within the past month, we hit 1 million views on the channel. So that's huge, man. We hit 1 million views on the channel. So that was big. You guys could check those. I did a little thank you video on that as well, man. We got a little Timmy commercial. I don't know if you saw that deal.
I did.
But I want to say this before I get out of here, man, about you Buckeyes. Let me tell y'all something, man. Y'all going to stop trying Coach Hayes, man. I flew to Columbus, Ohio, right, to visit some friends and family. And I'm in there, and the young lady stops me. And she said, you Coach Hayes, right? I had one of my shirts on, of course, that looked like me. You Coach Hayes, right? And so I did the JTT video, actually. I don't want to jack his name up, but the defensive lineman you guys just got from Washington. And she happened to be from Miami. She was going to Ohio State to be a veterinarian. And she was like, I watch your videos, I don't know what you be talking about, but I watch all Ohio State when she was going in. So she's the girl that's actually in the beginning of that video. She's like, if you don't do JTT, you got to get out of here. And so she was fun. We were in the airport, and so that's how we end up doing that, man. But you guys are truly buck nuts. I ain't gonna lie to you. I love it. You guys do a great job, man. You guys help this channel out, a lot with the views and subscribe and everything else. But I have to say this, you guys need to definitely win it this year. You got a gang of talent, man. A gang of talent, man. That receiver, I don't know what Brian Hartline is doing, man. I don't know what he's doing. It's one football, bro. He's getting all these guys, bro. So I'm excited. The running backs, Trayvion Henderson. I mean, all these guys. I can't wait to see these guys getting Evan Pryor. I mean, I can't wait to see these guys go in, man. I really can't.
It's so funny you mentioned it. Definitely some inside information on Buckeye Scoop, and you broke down Trayvion Henderson. And listen, man, you hit it right on the spot. He's turning heads. He's turning heads, and you saw him as the speedster, but he's dropping the shoulder, trying to run through guys, trying to be physical. And the receiving core, listen, Coach Hartline was a legend in South Florida when he played for Miami, and he's good at coaching. And so you think we can win it all this year, man?
I'm just being, be very honest. I don't see why not. You guys have the most time. I mean, Jack, so, and I know these guys are young, right? But you guys got talent. And that's what I talk about on the Kane show too a lot, is that I'll tell people Miami's 5 years away because we don't have the stable yet. You guys got them, man. Think about, you got a Jack Sawyer coming in, a Reed Carrico got over 20,000. I've done 2 videos of him. One of his videos has over 20,000. The other one was like 17,000. He's from Ironton, Ohio. I had to look that up. It was like across the bridge from Kentucky or something. You know what I mean? And he's killing it. So you guys have a bunch of talent. I mean, the receiving core, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't see, like, my only prayer is that everybody stays. I have to just say that, to be very honest. It's one football. It's one football. You got a top-notch receiver. Your offensive line is ridiculous. I mean, the defensive line guys, the linebackers, the safeties, I don't see why you can't, man. I don't see why you can't.
Buckeye fans are going to love that. And listen, they certainly appreciate it. I know they watch your videos. Just sent you, and I'll text you the names and stuff of the ones that you need to, especially since the websites and you guys are redoing the website now to make it available and more conducive for viewers and for athletes and parents. And definitely it's a resource that you need to, it's not free, but it's definitely worth it. For you, if you want to have honest evaluation and someone who's going to tell you the ins and outs, that will help with your recruitment down the road. If you're a Buckeye Scoop, listen, this is the best time to join. My man, Nevada Buck, is dropping nuggets. Kurt as well inside the program. Great things going on. Alex Gleitman, Bill Green, Tom Orr, Tony Gurman, Mick Walker, our entire staff. All hands on deck when it comes to training camp nuggets, when it comes to recruiting nuggets, myself as well. And definitely, Coach, I appreciate you, man, for coming on the show with your wisdom. Always a pleasure to have you on and definitely learn a lot more than when we came in. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, hit me up at Dominicsmith77@gmail.com. Check out my recruiting notebook, 2-piece and a biscuit. And I put down the recruiting things and answer your questions, but I also put down some fried chicken things, recipes that I learned along the way. My cardiologist, I hope he is not watching this. But
I love it.
Hey, that's what we do, man, over here at Buckeye Scoop. For Dominic Smith, that's Coach Kyle Hayes. We'll see you next time.